I started my poultry business with broiler production. Started with an humble background, 20 birds, with a group of friends. Then from there, my next cycle I did 50 birds, and subsequently I did a maximum of 500 birds while I was doing broilers. Firstly, broiler production is a game of numbers. If you are not doing numbers, you'll be ready to go down the value chain and process your birds. When I mean numbers, do in thousands, because the market is corny in broiler production. I say this because the market fluctuates and the price also. So different time of the year, January to December, broiler prices are not the same. They fluctuate a lot compared to eggs. Eggs are a little bit stable. I chose layers because I already have experience in broilers production, and all my fears in broilers production, I got a consolation in it in layers production regarding the market, the stability of the prices, and the steady market, the availability of market all the time. Unlike broilers, you have to scout and search for markets. My name is Abdul Gafar. I run a farm, Tropics Integrated Farms, and this is my poultry pen. Presently, these birds are 1,200. To start with, you are thinking of getting a farm, of owning a farm. After getting a land, the next thing is water. Source of water is very important. I think you should put that in place before any other thing. So you sink a borehole, you get an overhead tank. So we have a borehole outside there. Once we come to the main tank, this is our reservoir tank outside. So the water comes in through this pipe. This particular one, this is a filter just to filter dirt and microfilms in the water. Then it goes down to that drum over there. So that drum is what we use for our medication. Then from that drum, it comes to these two rubber. These are in transparent containers, so you'll be able to know there's water always. From here, it goes through the lines, through each rows of the cages. Then you go to the pen construction. That's a lot of money also. From the bricks to the woods to the roof. Then the cages, those are where the chunk of the money goes to. Prevention. Prevention is always better than cure. Then you follow regular hygienic practices, good sanitation practices, biosecurity measures. When we talk about biosecurity measures, there's prophylactic and vaccination. Then in terms of access control, don't make your farm a tourist attraction. Friends and family should not come visiting. People need to enter only if it's necessary. Avoid many legs in your pen. Talk less of handling the birds itself. Then the other area of biosecurity, there are some feed supplements you use to prevent disease outbreak. There are additives, there are probiotics. Instead of using antibiotics, we use probiotics. I'm trying to check for lice. So it's one of the things you check occasionally, just to check if they have ectoparasites like lice on there. So you do vaccination of the birds often. Then access control limits people and birds and animals from your farm as much as possible. I see they are getting excited. Once they see containers and feed themselves. When we talk about feeding, there are 4 things you need to get right. So you have to get the right quantity, the right quality, the right time, and the right place. So starting with quality, follow recommendation, speak to existing farmers, then you to research about the feed, know what is inside. The next thing is the quantity. Layers is not fed ad libitum, unlike broilers. So they require a particular grammage of feed per day, because your target is not the weight. We are not concerned about the weight. Broilers are fed ad libitum because you want them to take up more calories, so they will turn into fats and body weight. Compared to layers, the target is egg production. And as a matter of fact, if they overfeed, they will have more fat in their bellies and it will affect the egg production. So they won't be able to lay eggs as often as they will be. Then these brown birds are supposed to be given 16 hours of light per day. So if they are not getting that hours of light, obviously they will not eat as much. Ideally, presently, you witness around 13 hours of daylight to 12.5 hours of daylight. So with that, it's sufficient. The only danger is be constant with your lighting practice. Don't be alternating it. If you want to use 16 hours, that means you have to provide artificial lighting. And if you be providing it, let it be fixed. No, you'll be providing it every day. Don't give them 16 hours of light today. Tomorrow you don't give. Next tomorrow you give. it will affect their laying patterns. Because what light does is it stimulates the ovum to produce eggs. The timing now, it's important to feed your birds as early as possible in the day. By that time, the weather is cool and they will eat as much and it will be so efficient. The feed efficiency will be high. So as early as possible, there is a staff living on the farm. 6:30, the feeding has started. So once you are done with that, before you give them the second ration, it's advisable you mix up their feed. We call it rub. You rub the feed just like this. You rub the feed just like this, like at 2 to 3 hours interval. So between the morning feed and the second ration of feed, you should do that at least 3 to 4 times. Every time you do that, it stimulates them to eat. They will get up and start eating again. Then the second ration is advisable you give them when the sun is less harsh. Anything from 3:30 is okay. Because you will be doing more danger to them giving them feed in the hot sun. Because eating is a metabolic activity. It generates heat in the body. So giving them in the afternoon, most likely they are stressed in the afternoon because of the heat. So the right place, that's their feeder. Where do you give them their feed? You make sure their feeders is neat all the time. Then you probably check for molds. Probably they drop saliva into the feed will get sticky. You remove such. Any moisture in the feed it will become wet. You remove wet feed because if you don't remove them, they can breed microorganisms. So you check around anytime you are feeding and you see moisture or you see their saliva in it, you have to remove it and make sure it's clean always. Water is as important as feeding because if there's no water, they won't feed. All these drums, all these containers inside the pen, we wash them every week. Then you also wash the overhead tank occasionally. These are automated drinkers, nipple drinkers. So don't assume they are accessing water all the time. Occasionally just check randomly. You check each nipple to see if water is coming out from the nipple. You'll be surprised, some water will not be coming out. So that's the nipple drinker, in which the bird accesses the water. As you can see, by pecking water, it releases water and they drink. So this minimizes wastage in water. And because if you store alternatively, if they are not in cages, if you store somewhere, probably some put a container here to store the water. Dust and particles settles in the water and hygiene-wise, it's not okay. There are scenarios where farmers will notice some birds are not producing eggs. And by the time you visit the farm, you realize the first thing you check, any problem. I come, I see plenty of feed in a particular unit of cage, I will check their water. I come, I didn't see egg in a particular unit of cage, I will check their water. First thing to check is their water. Once the water is coming, then you can check for other things. At inception, when I started, a challenge I discovered is using antibiotics on a routine basis. Like having a particular period, some farmers will say every month I use antibiotics, every 6 weeks you deworm, every month you use Lansota. So when I started, one of the mistakes I've been making is I took advice of following some routine practices for antibiotics. So I use antibiotics often. So at a particular period of time, I discovered the birds, their liver, they have a friable liver over time. That means because liver is responsible for synthesis of chemicals and drugs they take, just like in humans also. So if you abuse drugs, liver is the one that do the synthesis of drugs you administer to them. So if you abuse drug and use it often, the liver has work to do all the time. And this is not like broiler production. Broiler production has a short cycle. Between 5, 6, 8 weeks max, you are done. So regardless of how you abuse the drugs, you might escape. But rearing birds of more than 2 years, if you abuse drugs, you live to face the consequences. Talk to farmers, attend trainings, attend seminars, mingle with farmers, don't operate in isolation.